Daniel, these SAG Awards are out, and, of course, lots of surprises here. I think the headlines are, in terms of the people snubbed who we thought would be here, are Michael Fassbender for actor is not on the list. And what about the actor herself, Vanessa Redgrave, for supporting actress? She's not there. And on the ensemble side, where we normally see the contenders for Best Picture that are seriously in the running at the Oscars, we see no Extremely Loud and Incredibly Close and no Hugo. Let's remind anyone listening to this video that the last time a movie won Best Picture at the Oscars, the only time, in fact, that it was not nominated here was Braveheart. What do you think some of the other headlines are this morning with these nominations?
I think one of the major ones is that Jessica Chastain was nominated for The Help. She seemed to have a little bit of better chance for The Tree of Life. A lot of people thought. I thought that as well. I thought she would be overshadowed by Octavia Spencer for The Help, and she wouldn't get nominated for that. But I'm guessing that The Help has just more support overall, or just more people watching it for maybe Octavia and Viola, and they're deciding to nominate Jessica Chastain for that instead.
Yeah, well, The Help did very well. I think it leads in terms of total nominations today. And, of course, it's probably going to win that ensemble award that we're talking about here. The question is, can the artist beat it? Probably that's the Best Picture front-runner at the Oscars that we see in this ensemble category, where we also see Bridesmaids nominated. Isn't that a scream? Descendants, Help, and Midnight in Paris. And the fact that Midnight in Paris is here is a good thing, too, because while it was nominated for the Critics' Choice Awards the other day, Woody Allen wasn't not recognized in the director's lineup, and I had always thought that this movie had more awards traction this year than what we saw at the Critics' Choice. Let's take these categories one by one, and let's start with Best Actress, where I don't think there were any surprises. We have Glenn Close and Viola Davis, Meryl Streep, Tilda Swinton, Michelle Williams. Of course, that means we do not see Rooney Mara, Charlize Theron, or Elizabeth Olsen, but still, the five frontrunners got in, right?
Yeah, pretty much. It doesn't look like there were any major surprises here. It's just five of the maybe 6 or 7 people who we already knew were really closely in the running. So it sort of solidifies maybe Glenn Close. She needed a little help because she seemed to be slipping for a while.
Yes, she was not nominated by some of the other precursors here. By the way, overall, at the Academy Awards, working backwards from SAG, last year, 18 of the nominees at the Oscars were nominated by SAG. 2 years ago, it was 19 out of 20. And that is an extraordinary overlap, of course. And it tells us, looking forward, that we should take certain art house contenders seriously. Like I remember Richard Jenkins was nominated at SAG for The Visitor, and that tattled on the fact that we would see him in the Oscar lineup. And sure enough, we did. And who among all of the art house long shots got in? Let's talk about Best Actor. Is Damian Bashir for, am I pronouncing his name correctly?
I think so.
Oh, okay. So, wow, he bumped Michael Fassbender and Gary Oldman. Amazing.
Yeah, especially for the art house vote. We all thought that was going to Michael Fassbender, and Damian Bashir didn't seem to have a lot of traction, even though the campaign was there for him. I didn't see it coming.
Of course, they sent that screener out as the very first one of the season. The studio did to blitz this town and get some momentum. We should talk about how the system of determining nominees for SAG is similar to the Oscars, and it is an extraordinary kind of. If you were a pollster, this would be a great way to get a sample vote, because while there are 100,000 members of SAG, there is a nominating committee of 2,100, very Hollywood-centric. But at the Oscars, the nominees are determined by 1,300 members of the acting branch. 1,300, 2,100, that's a pretty representative sample that corresponds well. I think that's why we see so much overlap here. But Gary Oldman not here either. That's not so much of a surprise. The biggest surprise, I think, was in supporting actor, where we don't see Max von Sydow, we don't see Albert Brooks, who swept the Critics Awards, and we don't see Ben Kingsley, which was really surprising. Instead, we have Jonah Hill getting in there, Nick Nolte, who we knew could get in. I don't think any of us seriously had put Jonah Hill in the running there. What are your thoughts on that category?
Best Supporting Actor seems to be the category that fluctuates the most from award to award. It seems like it's been wide open for this entire season, and now this is the SAG. There's so much overlap between SAG and Oscar that we're probably seeing that narrowed down significantly. And the big surprises for me, I thought Jonah Hill had a shot. That's not too surprising to me. I'm surprised Armie Hammer got in, because I thought J. Edgar was pretty much dead in the water.
Yes, especially because of the ridiculous makeup on Armie Hammer. I think that, we've all equated him to a burn victim and all these other things that it really detracts from his performance. That's what we thought. The fact that he got in here is really surprising. But I think there was so much love for him as a newcomer with Social Network and doing the dual role there of the twins, of course, that kind of trumped the fact that he bumped out the veterans like Ben Kingsley and Max von Sydow. I thought they were for sure going to go for Max von Sydow. In Extremely Loud and Incredibly Close, he is wordless. He plays this mysterious old man who lives across the street from Thomas Horn, and the various things are revealed about him that are heart-tugging, and his role is very, very showy in a wordless way, because it's very comedic and very just heart-tugging is the best phrase. The fact that he's not here is startling, because I thought the actors would really fall for that. Here was a chance for them to reward a silent performance, much like they did in the actor race by nominating Jean Dujardin. But moving over to supporting actors, where we have some real surprises there. Again, no Extremely Loud and Incredibly Close, so Sandra Bullock's not in there. But Vanessa Redgrave not being in here for Coriolanus. Wow, what do you make of that?
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't seen Coriolanus. I've been sort of skeptical about Vanessa Redgrave for a while, just because, apart from these award circles, I just haven't heard about the film. So I was sort of thinking, okay, she's Vanessa Redgrave, she's a legendary actress, and she's bound to get in, but, and so this now sort of confirms my early hunch that I've been having.
I think they just haven't seen this movie. It's a very difficult movie to watch. It's so bombastic and so inaccessible, because the Shakespearean language is intact in this movie, even though it's given a contemporary spin update in terms of clothing and location. It's set in mythical Eastern Europe nations. But if you see the movie, it is a bravura performance for her, because it has this grand finale where she just takes over the movie and gives one of the great performances of her life, which is why you can see film critics loved it. But I think they just didn't see this movie. A lot of people didn't see this movie. In L.A. and New York, the SAG nominating committee attend actual screenings that are set up by, in this case, Weinstein. But there's no telling who actually attended the screenings or not. But Weinstein, as we know, is pretty aggressive there. What's left? The category for ensemble. Now, here's where we got Bridesmaid getting in here, which I thought was really fascinating. What are your thoughts on this race?
I'm sort of kicking myself a little bit. As soon as I rented Bridesmaids on DVD like a couple of weeks ago, or like maybe a month ago, and as soon as I saw it, I put it in my nominations for SAG, and I think I sort of was convinced out of it, just because it's a really broad comedy. It's not like the serious acting like you have the ensembles of The Help and The Descendants. But it's really, really a great piece of comic ensemble acting, and it's like The Help, the only other female-driven major hit this year. So I think maybe that sort of served an underserved demographic, that they really wanted to honor these female-driven films.
That's a very good point. course, it also showed up on the AFI list of the top 10 movies of the year, so it got a little cred there. I am embarrassed to confess, but I will confess right here and now, that we did not have Bridesmaids on our list, the drop-down menu for users at Gold Derby to pick their predictions for Best Picture, because, quite frankly, Universal didn't either. The studio here has been actively campaigning this movie in 2 categories. Oh, actually 3. They do give Kristen Wiig some oomph, but mostly, of course, Melissa McCarthy and screenplay at the Oscars, because we know that historically some offbeat comedies do get into the screenplay races that don't get taken seriously in the Best Picture race. But so in other words, they weren't actively campaigning for a Best Picture nomination. They would admit that, but they weren't. Now, of course, we have to take this movie very seriously, even in that race. I'm surprised no Hugo. There's a lot of love for Hugo in this town, but I think just because it's got a kid in it, and you know what? This is where we have the kid bias. The 2 movies that have kids at the center of them, Hugo and Extremely Loud, are the 2 movies snubbed here. And we know that especially the snooty actors are not going to take kid performances seriously. There's something so pretentious about actors, and especially the Actors Guild. I'm not really surprised here, but I would not be too shocked if Thomas Horn actually popped up for Best Actor at the Oscars. I know they didn't nominate Jaleel Osment, what's his name? And they didn't nominate Jamie Bell at the Oscars, but still... these are 2 major Oscar contenders that strangely aren't registering with SAG voters. I think that will be corrected at the Oscars.
Hugo doesn't surprise me too much, because that's a very technically driven film. It's very Scorsese driven, and it also has not only one, it has sort of 2 kids in the lead roles, so it didn't really necessarily seem like a film that would resonate with the acting branch.
But it's a movie about making movies. It turns out, of course, that's, spoiler alert, that's the big reveal here. I won't explain how, if you haven't seen the movie, how it turns out to be a movie about making movies, but that is a great irony about show business awards, isn't it? That movies about movies don't do well at movie awards in general. Certainly that's true of the Oscars.
But it didn't hurt the artist.
But then there's the artist, of course. That is the movie that will probably change everything this year. But we thought that if it was going to get a free pass, that Hugo would get a similar free pass, and it's not. At least not here. I think there is a difference at the Academy where you hear. I'm in Hollywood right now. You hear a lot of love for the movie among Academy members. I have had dozens of emails from Academy members, usually late at night, probably when they've had a few drinks, going, "What's wrong at Gold Derby? You're not taking this Hugo movie seriously enough." And I hear the same kind of refrain about Midnight in Paris. Well, Midnight in Paris rebounded here today with this ensemble nomination, but I think that those late night emails I get are more indicative of what we'll see at the Oscars than what we saw at SAG with the snub of Hugo and Extremely Loud.